Same question, but instead of looking back, looking forward. And that's obviously a very difficult one, but seeing those trends, any device, consumerization, cloud adoption, work anywhere, any ideas what the future has ahead for us in the next 10, 20-ish years?
Well, yeah, I guess I can be a little controversial. I actually see a shift towards, I guess, a couple things. One of them is, especially with Awingu being based in Europe, is the privacy debate and privacy concerns, right? Because privacy has always been one of the trade-offs that enterprises have been able to make in terms of if it's an enterprise desktop and it's an enterprise, device, and you're accessing enterprise data on it, they have rights to that data and to protect that data and what you do with that data on the device. As you think about this work from anywhere on any device kind of future, which I do think is part of the future we'll talk more about in a minute, one of the trade-offs is always going to be, okay, what about the privacy of the user and the data on the device? And so you've seen phones do this very well, where you just have secure enclaves on the phone. Here's your enterprise data, and it's wholly separate from your your work data and your personal data. So Android does this today with the way the Android Enterprise works. Completely separate instance that can be managed by the enterprise. They have no visibility into what's going on the consumer side of the device. And so you start seeing a little bit of that separation. I think you're going to see that more on PCs and devices. And if you look at the way management's going and security's going for PCs, you're going to see that effect, where you can bring a device that has a section that you can have your private enclave of what you're doing from a consumer perspective separate. So I think, but one of the areas, and I don't know what it all looks like yet, I just know that the drivers are there at a national level, at a nation state level, and at a personal level, is this privacy versus security versus availability discussion that every enterprise is having to deal with, right? And there in Europe, GDPR has still big ripples and aftershocks in the industry of how they deal with that. And you see here in California, where I live, we've enacted our own data privacy laws. They're not ubiquitous across the states, but you can see there's something at a national level or even more states picking it up. So privacy is something that is going to impact end user computing and the intersection of security, availability, all the things you mentioned. So that's one. At the same time, this Gartner uses a term called the everywhere enterprise, and I'm a big fan of it because that dynamic is just going to continue, and we're going to come out of COVID here. Hopefully, some point, business gets back to some kind of a new normal where we can all travel, but there's going to be more people working wherever because IT had to really embrace that to work over the last year. And as that everywhere enterprise continues, the way that access is done is being rethought and re-implemented. You're no longer using things like VPNs. So VPNs, I think, go away and they're replaced by other types of access solutions that verify who the carbon-based being is, the human, but also the device and other parts of context. I think the way security is done in the enterprise, once again, if all your users aren't getting on a network, spending most of your security budget on a network security, it doesn't make sense anymore. You have to think about that differently. And I think obviously more of your security probably moves to the cloud, probably moves to the device as well. Those are some of the things. Hopefully that's kind of what you were looking for and on topic, but that's kind of how I see things changing over the next 10 years.